Secretary Scott McClellan and his counsel Mike and Jane Tiger. Many respected commentators have noted that this is the most important matter Congress could examine in its oversight of this administration. As John Nichols wrote in The Nation magazine, what Scott McClellan wrote in his new book about the administration's propaganda campaign to promote and defend the occupation of Iraq was not a revelation. It was a confirmation that the White House has played fast and loose with the truth in a time of war. Depending on how one reads the Constitution, that may or may not be an impeachable offense. But Mr. McClellan's assertion that top presidential aides, perhaps with the cooperation of the Vice President, conspired to obstruct justice by lying about their role in the plot to destroy the reputation of former Ambassador Joe Wilson, a critic of the rush to war, and his wife, former CIA agent Valerie Plame. And this demands a response from Congress. When White House insiders leak classified information, manipulate media coverage, and otherwise employ their immense power to punish dissenters, Congress does not have any other option. It has a constitutional duty to check and balance an errant executive branch. That the former White House spokesman, with his claim that the President said he authorized the selective release of classified information to reporters covering the Wilson story, links the wrongdoing directly to Bush, ups the ante even further. That is the quote. I'd like to make these 3 points. First, Mr. McClellan's revelations highlight acts that may constitute illegal obstruction of justice beyond that for which Scooter Libby was convicted. In his book, Mr. McClellan explains that he stated to Mr. Libby that he did not intend to vouch for and exonerate him to the press in the way that he had done concerning Karl Rove, since the leak investigation had actually begun. Shortly after that conversation, however, White House Chief of Staff Andrew Card told Mr. McClellan that the President and Vice President spoke this morning. They want you to give the press the same assurances for Scooter that you gave for Karl. It seems clear that Mr. Libby, Mr. Card, the President, and Vice President were involved in directing Mr. McClellan to falsely vouch for Mr. Libby, despite Mr. McClellan's earlier reservations. In fact, handwritten notes from Vice President Cheney himself confirmed this. These notes, now on the screen, were an exhibit in the Libby trial and appear to be notes from Mr. Cheney's conversation with the President. The notes say, "Has to happen today, call out to key press saying same thing about Scooter as Karl. Not going to protect one staffer and sacrifice the guy." And then something intelligible, but something illegible, but looks like this press, meaning this president that was asked to stick his neck out in the meat grinder because of the incompetence of others, in quotation. That's disturbing enough, but we also have a letter from 2 former federal prosecutors, as we can see on the screen. The first paragraph, that's all I'll read, of that letter states that a substantial predicate exists for investigation of whether this conduct may constitute the criminal offense of obstruction of justice. To those who would dismiss the significance of today's hearings, I'd say that concerns about possible obstruction of justice are not trivial and clearly warrant this committee's attention. In many respects, today's hearings just offers us a partial glimpse into apparent deceptions at the White House, including most notably with regard to the outing of Valerie Plame. To truly get to the bottom of this matter, we'll need far more cooperation by the administration and from the Justice Department. It's vital that we obtain the interview reports of President Bush and Vice President Cheney and unredacted interview reports of other key White House officials to determine their involvement, not only in the leak but also the cover-up. Yet the Justice Department has been less cooperative with this committee and has refused even to give us access to redacted materials that the Oversight Committee of the Congress has already seen. Such conduct is unacceptable, which is why this week we sent a letter to Attorney General Mukasey reiterating our request and explaining that we may have to resort to compulsory process if they continue to deny us the documents. We look forward to hearing from Mr. McClellan on the role of the Vice President and the President. Now, the issue of a possible pardon of Mr. Libby still remains outstanding, in addition to the President's earlier commutation of Mr. Libby's prison sentence. Following Mr. Libby's sentence commutation, we held a hearing on the issue, and we hope to explore with Mr. McClellan his thoughts on a possible presidential pardon for Mr. Libby in the context of the revelations in his book. And I want to close by acknowledging Mr. McClellan's suggestion in his book and in today's opening statement that all of us work on what he mentioned in his book, restoring civility and bipartisanship and candor to our national political discourse and putting our nation's interests above our partisan goals. I want to point out this committee has been, I think, superb in working in that spirit. We have very important issues, wide differences of view, but we've always been able to conduct our discussions in a very highly appropriate way. And these goals are shared by members of this committee on both sides of the aisle. And as a result, when credible and troubling allegations are made by an important former administration official, although partisan tensions may arise, we know that we can deal with the facts and not personal or partisan attacks. I thank you for your appearance.